Now here on the locker room, we've gone beneath the surface and take a look at your life and other Hofstra players, alumni, coaches' lives as well. And this is the Diversity in Sports special show. So I want to go a little bit beneath the surface more and get your thoughts on what it is like being a man of color in our world today.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's been difficult for African Americans throughout the history of America. And we've been the victims to many unfortunate brutalities. Whether that's from citizens or police, and it's been very unfortunate and unfair. And we've been trying to figure out a way to make change since the beginning of time. I mean, since the beginning of this country, and it's been very difficult for guys, for African Americans. It's very frustrating, and somewhat some people are even scary because for the very protection that we look for from police, they're actually brutalizing us, and for that to happen and us not to have a direction to go in for protection, it becomes very, very, very scary to us. And I think, for myself, I've had my own experiences dealing with, racial profiling with police in New York City. And, and I know it happens frequent. And for us to try to come to some sort of solution, some sort of common ground, we need everybody to come together and figure a way to stop this. And again, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. Obviously, we see how much time it's taken already, but I don't think it's something that we can close eyes on. We got to continue to push the pedal. And I think for the people that are involved in social issues, I think we got to look at it as a full-time job. You can't be involved in social issues part-time, and that's why sometimes I think it's unfair to throw cameras in front of athletes and ask them these tough questions about social issues that they're not trained to speak on, and and they get judged on it. I think we got to start holding our leaders more responsible for these things. They're supposed to be trained, to come up with solutions on these type of problems and issues. And I think those are the guys that have to start, taking it more serious for us to make real change in this society, because it's needed now.
Yeah, it definitely is needed. I completely agree with that. One of the things that came to my mind, you are a coach, in the G League or just in general in any aspect of sports. And I was wondering, recently we saw Steve Nash get hired as the coach of the Brooklyn Nets. And, Stephen A. Smith came out and he said, there are more people deserving of that role who are of color. And what are your thoughts on that, as an assistant coach? Do you think sometimes that limits places people can go, in terms of coaching and the higher up positions?
I mean, it happens in every industry in the world. I mean, every industry have this type of stuff happen. You have a person with experience that's been working, diligently to be ready for that opportunity, and then someone come in and that don't have the experience, and they get the job. That's part of life. It's unfortunate that we live in a world that's built on things that happens that may be looked upon as being unfair, but it's something that you can't frown upon. You can't gripe on it. You got to keep moving. You got to just continue to make sure you're prepared for the next opportunity, whether it's unfair or not. And Steve Nash getting a job with the Brooklyn Nets, I'm not in a position to say whether it's fair or not. Steve Nash obviously is one of the greatest basketball players to ever play. He's one of the smartest players to ever play. He's never coached before, but Steve Kerr never coached. He had success, in Golden State. So I can't say Steve Nash is not going to have success, in Brooklyn. Jason Kidd, he went right from playing to coaching. Derek Fisher went right from playing to coaching. So I'm not going to say it's a racial thing or a prejudice thing. But I do think, some of the assistant coaches throughout the league deserve opportunities. And I don't think they're getting it as much as they should get it. But I think they just have to continue to push the pedal, and hopefully, when that opportunity do arise, they're ready for that opportunity to step into that role and have success.
And after the passing of George Floyd, we've seen, many different protests and movements in order to create that change you're talking about and combat the social injustices. In the NBA, that's where it all really got to the forefront. The boycotting of playoff games, something we've never seen before. What were your thoughts on that?
Well, we know that the NBA has a strong voice. The players, they have a platform. People listen to them. So I was all for the boycott. I thought it was necessary. I mean, obviously, you want to bring attention to these injustices that's happening throughout a society, especially when it comes to African American people in this country. This is something that's been happening for far too long. And, we have, people of all different races and ethnic groups that's participating in bringing awareness to these issues. And the NBA, with their platform, have done an unbelievable job at bringing that awareness. And I'm very proud to be a part of that league because of it. And I think we can continue to move that needle, and hopefully, it helps with these social justices moving forward. And so I was all for the boycotting.
And as a coach as well, how can you help your players get their messages across and help them speak out like we saw in the NBA for when it comes time, if the messages do, continue to happen as they should next season for the G League?
Well, for me, I just let our players be who they are. Some people aren't comfortable when it comes to social issues. They just aren't comfortable. That's not what they are trained to do. So I try not to put pressure on our athletes to speak on these issues. I try to help them understand what's going on in our society, but I don't expect for them to have any sound bites when it comes to these issues. That's not their profession. Their profession is to play basketball. Okay, if they decide to speak on them, they have the right to speak on them. But that's not for me to expect for them to do. I think again, it goes back to the leaders who's supposed to be trained to deal with these type of issues. That's their job. That's what they get paid for. And I think we need to leave that to them to try to deal with. Now, should we have a voice in these matters if we decide to? Absolutely. And if one of our players have a voice and they want to speak about social issues, by all means, I encourage it. I support it. I would never go against one of our players wanting to speak on these issues because they're out there, they're happening. I'm going to speak on the issues myself personally, if I feel like I want to. So I think if you want to speak on them, it should speak on them. But I wouldn't have any expectations, or I wouldn't pressure our athletes to address these issues unless they feel comfortable doing so.
And you just brought up, the freedom to speak on issues if you so choose. Well, you are a father, you have a young son, but when do those conversations really start about the social injustices in our world and what he hopefully shouldn't have to deal with? But when is that those conversations start for you and him?
Well, for some people, it starts at different ages. For me, I haven't introduced my son to any of the stuff that's going on. I'm not going to introduce my son to what I feel is trauma. When you start to show or start to speak on these things to children, that at a very young age, I think you introduce some sort of trauma to them. You start to instill fear into them, and fear can cause anxiety. And I'm not trying to do that with my child at this age. I'm trying to, allow him to enjoy his youth, his young age. He's a child. He's a toddler. I want him to enjoy that as long as possible, because we all know as adults, as you get older, things start to get more difficult. And I don't want to put any difficulty on him at this age. I want him to really enjoy it, to have fun, be a child. When I feel the time is appropriate to introduce him to these social issues, I will. But right now, I don't think the age is appropriate. But I think, for every parent is different. That's the way we parent. And my child, he doesn't know what's going on in the world, and I think that's the purity of children. They don't know, they're innocent, and that's how I want it to stay as long as possible.
And lastly, I want to leave our listeners with a message from you, Norman.
Okay.
What can we do, as a community, a society, and a nation to come together and create this change?
The first thing I do is look yourself in the mirror. It starts with us. It starts with your person, your personal self. You have to go and look yourself in the mirror and say, how can you make a change? Ask yourself, how can you make a change? How can I help improve the conditions that we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis? So once you can, you can get yourself in order, and you can figure out how you can make an impact, then I think things will start to change. But until we can personally, look ourselves in the mirror and change ourselves, and nothing will change. So I think it starts with the person itself. The person himself. You have an issue. I always say we're fortunate to work with all different races and ethnic groups from around the world, being in the basketball world. So if I hear someone speaking about another race, I have the ability to step up and defend that race because I work with them and I know those prejudices or those stereotypes aren't true. So again, I have that power. I have that ability because I have the experience. That's why I'm very fortunate. I always say that I'm very fortunate to have traveled the world and meet so many people from different walks of life, to know that some of the things that I've heard or some of the stereotypes that I've heard aren't true. And I think that's what people need to do. Some people aren't as experienced as far as dealing with different cultures. But I think people do know what's right and wrong. And you need to go in the mirror, look yourself in the mirror, and find out how you can make an impact. And it starts with yourself. And that's the message that I'll leave. Figure out a way that you can help. Everyone has their own personal way to help. You figure out the way you can help. Bring this, these injustices and these negative things that happen in our society to a halt.
Thank you for that. I mean, that's a great message, and I think the hard conversations like this are the ones that need to be and need to be
Absolutely.
spoken. And I appreciate you coming on today on the Locker Room, 88.7 FM, WRHU, Radio Hofstra University. Always enjoy talking with you, Norman. And
Thank you.
Best of luck. Stay healthy, you and your family, and can't wait to talk again soon.
Tino, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. I'm a big Hofstra guy, so anytime you guys need me, I'm here for you guys. Thank you, man.
Thank you.